Hi everyone, Dr. Victoria Scarborough here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And as I promised, I'm going to be doing the astrology of Pete Buttigieg from the perspective of evolutionary astrology. Pete is the current mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's been the mayor of South Bend, Indiana since 2012. He is one of the Democratic nominees running for president, and he actually does have some really good numbers. People seem to really like Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete is the first openly gay mayor of a major city. I believe that to be true. And he was in naval intelligence. He was in Afghanistan, and while he was there, he decided that he needed to be who he was, and he needed to come out. So he came out, I believe, when he was in the service, and he has recently gotten married to a man named Christian, who is a teacher. I don't know Christian's birthday. I apologize for not knowing that. But I want to take a look at Mayor Pete's chart and see what we see in his chart. So we have his chart right here, and I am going to just try to set it up, and I apologize for not having this quite right yet. There we go. I think you can see that. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to hear me okay. I actually did this already, but the microphone wasn't in the right place and you couldn't really hear me. So here we have Mayor Pete's chart. Now I want to just say something about his chart and his time of birth. We have him born... hold on one second. I have to close the door. Sorry about that. I have a maniacal neighbor when it comes to weed whacking, and he's starting, of course, when I'm doing this, to weed whack. Anyway, we have him born January 19th, 1982. And in South Bend, Indiana, and the time of birth is 7:11 a.m. And I want to give a shout out to Dana, whose daughter went to see Mayor Pete when he was doing a book signing for his book. Incidentally, I do want to read his book. It's on my list. I got a big, long list, and it seems like I don't really ever have time to read, but it's on it. Anyway, she, when he was signing her book, she asked him, because she wanted to know what his ascendant was, what time were you born? And he sort of looked up, surprised, but like immediately said 7:11 a.m. And so this is from the mouth of Pete Buttigieg. And of course, without looking at a birth certificate, we can't know for sure, because some people think they know, and some people, but this guy seems like he's pretty up on the details. So I would say this is probably a pretty accurate description of Pete. And according to his chart, it kind of explains a lot. So let's look at that. Okay. So thank you, Dana, and Dana's daughter, for that information. Okay, so here we have Mayor Pete. And with that 7:11 a.m. Birth time, it gives him a ascendant of Capricorn. Okay, he has a Capricorn ascendant around 12 degrees of Capricorn. What's interesting is the United States, the sun in the United States is about 13 degrees. So the sun of the United States actually falls in his house of relationship. He has his sun in Capricorn. He has Venus in Aquarius, and he has Mercury in Aquarius. A little word about Mercury in Aquarius. People who have Mercury in Aquarius are generally very, very smart. They tend to see things in a more holographic and holistic way. They have a great ability to make connections, see connections, see how things are structured, and see where the weakness is and where it can be improved. So this is somebody who's very, very smart. He was, both parents were professors at Notre Dame, and he was always surrounded by sort of the professor class, I guess we could say, the intelligentsia, the thinkers. And in that respect, he resonates with that for sure. Now, he has his Pluto in Libra. And so we had the three candidates that we've talked about so far, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Liz Warren, have all had Pluto in Leo. Pete is a different generation. He's the Pluto in Libra generation. And the Pluto in Libra generation is a generation that really desires fairness. They desire relationship. They desire peace. Okay, they desire a sense of balance. And yet, as we know with all generations that come in order to evolve, that generation must move in the opposite direction. And in the case of Libra, we're talking about Aquarius. And so in order for his soul to evolve, his soul needs to move in the direction of Aquarius. And Aquarius is about being a pioneer. Excuse me, I don't mean Aquarius. I mean Aries. Sorry about that. Aries is about being a pioneer. It's about being the first, right? The first out there, the first, a courage, a willingness to do something differently, to sort of forge ahead. And he has done that because he is the first openly gay mayor of a major city. So he has that energy, and he has chosen to do that in this life. His Pluto is actually in a conjunction to his Saturn. It's very close. His Pluto's at 26. His Saturn, it looks like it's at 22. So that's only, 4-degree difference. And the relationship between Saturn and Pluto in his chart is a balsamic one. That means that Saturn, the faster moving planet, is moving towards Pluto. And so he was born at a time, 1982, when the structures of society, or what society deems society being Libra proper, were sort of dissolving away. Pluto in Libra is the generation where relationship was transformed. Pluto, a lot of the Pluto in Libra generation is the first generation where this was like where everybody was getting a divorce. Okay, so his parents did not. Okay, so that's not necessarily true of him, but it is. The generation is about a restructuring, a letting go of those things in relating that no longer serve, and keeping those things that would make relationship be more soul-centered. So this Saturn conjunct Pluto in a balsamic phase says that within him, he is letting go of Saturn, the hierarchical structure or the patriarchal structure of how relationship should be. And he is moving into a more soul-centered relationship with relationship. And of course, we can see that with his choice of coming out as being gay. Now, as I've said in the other readings, where Pluto sits in the chart is his personal experience with this Pluto in Libra. And he has his Pluto in the 9th house, just like Bernie Sanders and just like Liz Warren had. So this is somebody who is seeking truth, okay? He is seeking out and searching for truth. He has a philosophy of life that he believes in. And his challenge, to a certain extent, is how do I bring that philosophy of life down to in a way, and say it in such a way that the people will understand it. So this is finding language. This is finding language for this journey that his soul is taking. So, and the other thing is the 9th house is foreign affairs. And so when you have Pluto in that house, there is a strength there. And we know that he had a lot of his transformation that he experienced through his military service. That's, I think, when he made the decision to come out. Now, he does, so Pluto in Libra and the polarity point in Aries is the soul's journey to evolve in this lifetime, and yet it is unconscious evolution. Where it is conscious and where Pluto acts in a conscious manner is through the nodes of the moon. And we can see that he has his south node at 22 degrees, looks like 26 minutes of Capricorn, and his north node in Cancer. South node in the 1st house, North Node in the seventh house. And so his evolution, his conscious evolution, is moving towards how he defines himself, first house, in a structured, hierarchical, traditional way, and moves into the seventh house of relationship, allowing his heart to lead the way. Cancer, allowing his feelings and his emotions to lead the way. This is somebody who knows how to administer. He has a lot of Capricorn. He has the South Node in Capricorn. He has the Sun in Capricorn. And of course, the Venus and Mercury in Aquarius also helps him. But this brings out a more progressive side of him. Okay, so he has both a traditional side and a progressive side within his chart anyway. And it's interesting because right now the South Node is in Capricorn and the North Node is in Cancer. That means in 2019 he has had his nodal return, which is normal to happen around the time of his, I think he's 37 or 38 now, and that's the normal time for that, 36 I think, to happen. To have your nodal return. So that's a more of a timing thing, but it's very interesting that he is applying himself to his destiny when his nodes are lining up. And any time you have the nodes either in a conjunction with a nodal return, a nodal opposition, and sometimes the nodal square, it's usually very fated times for people. The nodal conjunction is a reset. So when you have your nodal return, it's kind of a reset of your destiny and your purpose. When you have the opposition, when the transiting North Node is on the South Node and the transiting South Node is on the North Node, it's a decision time. You have an opportunity to see just how far either you are away or close to your destiny, and you make another decision. Or you change direction if direction is needed. And then when it's square the nodes, oftentimes we're at a crossroads to make a decision and take an action. So that's just a little aside that doesn't really have much to do with Mayor Pete, except that he has his nodal return right now. So he has, okay, and you can probably see this, is he does have two planets square the nodes. He has Pluto and Saturn square the nodes. And Saturn is the ruling planet of his South Node, which makes that even a little bit more potent. When you have a planet square the nodes, you have a tendency to flip-flop back and forth from one side to the other. Okay, the ruling planet of his South Node is Capricorn. Of course, he has Capricorn and Libra, so he cares about what other people think. His North Node is in Cancer, and he has his moon in Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio, the moon is the ruling planet of Cancer, and he has it in the 10th house. And so he's not one to really want to show his feelings. Moon in Scorpio tends to be very, keep their feelings very close to the vest. They don't want to be betrayed. They know what it feels like to be betrayed. They're very deep feeling, and there's a tendency to sort of hold your emotions very close. The North Node by house, however, is ruled by Venus, and he has Venus in Aquarius. And Venus in Aquarius is a love of and an appreciation for progressive ideas, for humanitarian endeavor, for liberty and justice. Okay, he has one of the things that he talks about in his when he talks about his point of view, his perspective, is that we need to sort of redefine and work on the whole process of democracy. And we can see that transformation up here in that 9th house in Libra. And of course, we can see that with his Venus, because Venus is the ruling planet of Libra, so you can't separate all this. So he actually has, one of his challenges in this lifetime is he will flip-flop back and forth between the more progressive side of himself and the more traditional side of himself. And in order for, in order for him to move into his North Node, he must resolve this issue. It's interesting because Hillary Clinton had a similar setup in her chart. She had, if you use the 8, I think it was 803 or 806, whatever, 8 o'clock chart for Hillary. Gives her a Scorpio ascendant, her south node in Scorpio, or north node in Taurus. And she had Pluto and Saturn and Mars actually square the nodes. So there's a similar dynamic that he has. And the issue here is ambition. This is a very ambitious chart. And yet his future isn't based on his ambition, south node. His future is based on his ability to connect on a one-to-one level, on an emotional level. And that is seen more in his progressive side. And so he is sort of, to a certain extent, a little bit of a flip-flopper. And yet, having Saturn and Pluto in Libra, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to balance the progressive side with the more traditional side. And that's why he thinks that we need to move slower, going from progressive ideas like Medicare for all, and then sort of moving step by step in that direction. The only problem with that is sometimes this combination can get caught up in the power of it all. And that's really what happened, in my estimation, with Hillary Clinton. I think that she initially had the right ideas, especially when she was working with her husband. And of course, you can disagree with me, and I'm not really, this isn't about Hillary. I'm just using it as an example. So please don't, be dissing Hillary on this one. Okay, this is about Mayor Pete. But I do believe that she got caught up in the power of it all, and it was her downfall, and I wouldn't want to see that happen to him. He has to move in the direction of his north node. His resolution node is the north node. And so he needs to move in that direction to resolve this issue. And once he can do that, then he can express himself fully. When you have Pluto square the nodes, you cannot get to that polarity point because the nodes are in the way. It's like you're like here, and then you're like, oh, I'll be here, then I'll be here, then I'll be here, then I'll be here, and you never get over the wall or the hump there. And so in order for him to do that, he needs to apply himself to the future. In a heart-centered, loving, emotional way. And that's going to allow him to be uniquely who he's meant to be. And people will see the story, and people will see the authenticity. And so he's a very smart guy. And if he doesn't get caught up in the power game of it all, I think that he could be very much a good leader, a good progressive, more progressive type, without really, again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so these are his challenges. And, he's a smart guy, and he's having his opportunities to see how he's going to work with this energy. Incidentally, his Saturn is conjunct Bernie Sanders' Venus. And he was a recipient of an award from the Kennedy Center because he did an essay on Bernie Sanders when I think he was in high school when he did that. So that I find that very interesting. So he does admire Bernie Sanders, and yet he struggles with this as well. He struggles with how does he balance his more traditional side, because he does see the value of structure and hierarchy, and he doesn't necessarily want anarchy. But then none of us want anarchy, really. We just want the structures that no longer work to go away, so that we can start living our lives in a more peaceful way, which kind of is what he wants anyway. Over the next 2 years, we're going to have Saturn sitting on his sun, and then Pluto sitting on his sun, because his sun is at about 30 degrees of Capricorn. And so it's interesting that Saturn and Pluto are the planets that square his nodes. And then over the next few years, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, he's going to be having first Saturn and then Pluto making a conjunction to his sun. And so he's going to have to redefine who he is, who's his identity. And let's hope that he moves in the direction of his destiny. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day, and I think the next person I might do is Kamala Harris, because I think I have a accurate birth time on her. I think I have one on her. I have one on Cory Booker. I have it on Marianne Williamson. And I'll have to check who else I have, who I have it on. So, but if anybody out there knows the dates of births of these candidates, the time of birth of these candidates, please share. And I'll share what I know. Have a great day. Bye.